I don't think I've personally taught someone any game that is more difficult to grasp as a new player than Deadlock. It's got to be the worst. Because I played Dota and League with other people before, and I've taught people Valorant or like other shooting games before, like Apex, fighting games. I think it's like way worse, actually. Can I just give you guys the rundown of what happens literally every time? The checklist of what it's like to teach someone a new competitive video game that's popular. It's like almost top 10 played on Steam. You can't even play the game without being invited. It's easier to get in now, but like, you know, to give you context about the game, it's not even an open game you could play, and it had like almost 200K on Steam in the last month. It's like wild, right? This is my experience of teaching new players the game. I'm like, hey, oh yeah, you played it before, whatever. They're like, yeah, I messed around a little bit. And I'm like, cool. Did you play the tutorial? Nah, like I don't think I need it. I'm probably good. Like I think I know what to do. I'm probably cool. Or the alternate response, which is, yeah, I did a little bit of it and then I just kind of stopped. Those are the two answers to did you do the tutorial of the game. And when we go to play the game, they slap a sticker on the side of our matchmaking and it's like, you know, there's a pretty large MMR difference in your party. The game experience may not be as good as normal. You might have a difficult game, and we queue up and we play the game, right? What happens basically immediately, they like don't know how to pick a hero. In the beginning, you get to pick like a selection of heroes and they're like, who do I even play? I don't even know what the heroes do. And I'm like, you want to go to the sandbox and try a couple? They're like, nah, just tell me who's good. So I suggest a few heroes that are easy. They're like, cool. Like, all right, I picked my 3 characters. Let's go. And then they get one of the 3. Usually they're like, I went in training mode with one guy, so I know what this guy does or something, or sandbox or whatever. And then they like get a different hero. So they don't even know what their hero does and their abilities do. So then I'm like, hey, if you look at the build menu, when you hit B, when you load into the game, it gives you like a menu. And I'm like, you could just check the builds there and like whatever one of the popular builds is that looks cool to you, click that. And while I'm saying this, we are like zipping into the lane. So the game is started. We're playing the game. And then they're like, why is the build called Vindicta Feet Build Gun Sniper? I'm like, don't worry about that. Just click whatever sounds good. And like, you want to use that one? Sure. Just like play that one. That's fine. So they click the build, they load into the game, and then they start shooting the minions. When they're shooting the minions, they're getting denied a lot. And I'm like, oh yeah, like you should try to make sure that when you kill the minion, you have ammo to make sure that you can like deny, or you can melee it. And if you melee the minions, they can't deny it from you. So then the new player is like, okay, I got a hard focus on getting my last hit. So they stand there really focusing, and they're standing in there open, they're shooting. And right around this time is when they get killed for the first time, because they start trying to focus really hard on last hitting. They either get chunked down to nothing and then they have to like run to their tower, get dived and die, or they stand in the middle of the lane and then they die. And they're like, oh, wow, I died. Like, he did so much damage. Like, I didn't even know what to do. And I'm like, oh, yeah, his grenade does this, or like this happens or whatever. And I'm like, just try to farm into the tower. It's going to be okay. They come back. They die again. They come back. They die again. And then at this point, like, we're pretty far in the game. I leave the lane. I go farm the rest of the map. I get really strong. I start fighting other people. I'm doing objectives. I'm doing things. I'm scrapping with the team. And like, as a new player, they are never going to leave that lane. As a new player in any MOBA, you tend to never leave your lane because you don't know what's out there. You're just scared. So you just keep zipping back to your lane over and over because you're like, this is the place I know, and I know I belong here. The game stuck me here. I'm just gonna sit here in this lane. They probably have like 5,000 net worth or something. Everybody else in the game has like 10,000, 12,000, 14. Like, this new player is now useless. When you have so little money compared to the rest of the lobby, you literally basically don't exist. If you get into a fight with someone who's like a child and you're like the greatest gamer to ever do it, if there's that big of a difference in net worth, they will just kill you. So I'm running around the map doing things, very farmed now. And then I say things like, oh, he's low over here, or he's doing this or whatever. And then they try to get involved. But because they're so behind, whenever they try to fight, they just instantly die. And then I'm like, oh, you got to farm the jungle camps and catch up and like get some minions. And so then they sit in the camps and they try to shoot jungle camps and they don't really get it and they don't really have a build. And then they now are like 1-9 or like 0-9 or something. One of two things happens. Either I'm really fed and me and the rest of the team are winning and then we just go kill the enemy base. They do nothing all game. They're behind in money all game. They die in every fight they participate in and nothing good happens for them the entire time. The game ends, they're like 0-11 or like 0-12 or something, and they're like, I don't get it. Or we get absolutely destroyed because the other team is like more fed and we're down a new player. So then they're like 0-20, and then they're like, I don't really get it. And that is the first experience of literally every single new Deadlock player I've taught. Whether they play lots of MOBAs, whether they play lots of shooting games, all of them. And you have to do that like 10 times. Force a bot game upon them. They won't play the tutorial. They won't go into sandbox mode. Ask them like, you want to play against bot? They're like, no. They're just not interested. And when I first played Deadlock, it was the same thing. We played and like the person was like, why is no one pushing this lane or pushing that lane or doing this or what? And I was like, bro, it's literally my first game. He was like, oh my God, why am I stuck with the people who it's their literal first game? Oh my God. I had a guy who was like, not very mean, but he was a little mean at first. And then I was like, dude, this is our second game. He was like, oh, I see. And he was a little nicer. And then we played and we ended up losing the game. A week later, we ran into him on our team. And we were all way more farm than him. We had like way more kills than him. He was like the lowest on our team. And he was like, my bad, guys. Sorry for carrying this down. Like, he was nice about it. And I was like, no, dude, you know, you were in like our second match ever. And you were like pretty nice to us about the fact that we were doing really bad. And he's like, oh, wait, you guys have all gotten better than me already? And we're like, it's cool, man. Like, we don't care. Like, we got this. And then we won the game. And he was like real chill about it. But the first game was not nice. I also ran into somebody, I won't say, but it was like a Dota person, like a known Dota entity in the first like 10 games. He was on our team and he was really bad and he flamed us the whole time. I think we ended up winning barely or something. And then we played like a few games later. He was on the other team and we destroyed him. Like, he absolutely got crushed. Yeah, that was my experience teaching new players Deadlock. It's a really hard game to get into, like most MOBAs are, as you probably know. I'm usually the one that like when a group learns a new game, I'm like, oh yeah, I could teach it to you. Like, I'll help you learn it. Deadlock is brutal, man. It's a rough game. I feel bad for everybody. It's just how it is. Like, it's a hard game to learn. And I'm not smurfing when I play with new players. So it's like really tough. That's just how it goes sometimes. Deadlock has so many mechanics. Like, the movement is complicated. Shooting and last hitting and farming and like rotating and not dying in the team fights and itemizing. Like, you have so many items. In Dota and League, you have way less items. And all those slots have upgrades, or like you can sell and then replace them with higher quality items. You unlock slots by doing objectives in the match. So like sometimes you just don't have slots to purchase the items you want. Dude, the amount of times I've been in lane with someone and been like, buy extra regen. You're just getting harassed. You just buy extra regen. They're like, it's not on the build. And I'm like, you know what's not on the build? Fucking dying. But you're doing that a lot. Like, just buy extra regen in lane or healing, right? And just fucking post up with me and I'm gonna last. I'll farm for you. Just don't die. They have a Vindicta. I'm like, buy knockdown. And they're like, knockdown's not in the build. I need to save up to buy ricochet. And I'm like, you buy knockdown. You can't hit her. She's in the air. How are you going to ricochet her? Okay, you buy knockdown. Or like, buy ethereal shift for this. Or like, buy slowing hex. You know how many times someone's like, I can't kill this Abrams. And I'm like, you have heal bane? They're like, no. I'm like, do you have slowing hex? They're like, no. If you slowing hex an Abrams, he can't charge anymore, by the way. It makes it so that your opponent is slowed. So it's like a massive slow. And then the second thing it does is it disables all movement-based abilities. Abrams' tackle is a movement-based ability. He has like a shoulder tackle like Reinhardt, and then afterwards he can punch you and like melee, and it's like really good, right? You can just click him with the slowing hex, and now he doesn't have the tackle anymore because it's a movement-based ability. He can no longer tackle you into the wall. Most of the power of his kit is gone. Like a 1250 item, which is not very expensive, just immediately shut down so much of the power of the character. People just they don't want to buy it, you know? What item stops the Reaper ultimate? I'm talking about Haze. Generally, Haze builds unstoppable so that nothing will stop her from being able to do it. She's like unCCable. But the answer is you buy Metal Skin or you line of sight it. The reason these options are not real sometimes is that she will buy the thing that silences you so that you cannot activate your actives while being hit by her bullets. So then if you're not line of sighting it, you will just die. I cannot tell you how many like Shiv games when teaching new people, I have like 30 kills and we just lose. He can't kill the whole team alone. The enemy team just is like GG's and then flames me. And I'm like, my bad. We're teaching a new player how to play the game. That happens so often. I'm like, well,